On my wedding day, my sister handed me a gift box and told me to open it later. Before I could touch it, my husband, a former Navy SEAL commander, stepped in front of me. "Don't," he said. I laughed and asked what was wrong. Then he looked at my sister. His voice turned cold. "You brought a threat into my home." Every SEAL at the reception stood up at once. My sister's smug smile vanished. For the first time all day, she looked afraid. The soft clink of glasses and gentle jazz from the band died away in waves, one table after another falling quiet as guests registered what had just unfolded. I stood frozen in my ivory lace wedding gown, the hem brushing the polished ballroom floor, still half convinced this was some terrible misunderstanding. Up until that second, the day had felt like everything I had dreamed of. Sunlight spilled through tall floor-to-ceiling windows, flowers filled every corner, and people I loved had gathered to celebrate Jude and me. Now that fragile warmth dissolved into tense, heavy silence. I glanced back and forth between my older sister Elena and my new husband. Elena had flown in from another state for the ceremony. For years we had navigated a strained relationship. She was quick to make sharp, offhand remarks whenever something good happened, yet she always showed up for major family events with a practiced, caring smile. I wanted so badly to believe this was just Jude's military instincts kicking into overdrive, that he was reading danger where none existed. Decades of sibling history made me lean toward giving her the benefit of the doubt. Jude held his ground, not moving an inch from between Elena and me. His posture stayed calm, but every muscle in his shoulders was cold, the same controlled alertness he carried from his years of service. The group of his former teammates, all men and women who had served alongside him overseas, shifted where they stood near the back of the reception. They did not shout or make a sound, but their full attention locked onto Elena, and the wrapped box clutched tight against her chest. No one made any sudden, yet their presence sent a clear, unspoken warning across. Elena recovered from her flash of fear fast. She lifted her chin, forced a hurt look across her face, and directed her words toward our watching. She said she had spent weeks picking out something meaningful from her wedding, that she could not believe she was being treated like some sort of trouble. She appealed to our parents, standing a few feet away, asking them to tell Jude he was overreacting. Mom's hands flew to her mouth, clearly distressed that our happy celebration was falling apart. Dad stepped forward, trying to mediate, urging everyone to calm down and move past this awkward. Still, Jude refused to. He explained that the timing and setup felt. Elena had waited until the reception, when all eyes were on me, to hand over this wrapped package, refusing to give it to anyone else for safety. She specifically told me to open it in front of everyone. To him, that pattern was not how you handed over a sincere wedding present. It was how you staged public humiliation. My heart twisted inside my chest. Part of me wanted to brush everything aside, to push past this discomfort and get back to dancing and toasts, but I saw the way Elena's fingers dug hard into the wrap. She would not let anyone else hold that box. She would not set it down on one of the nearby tables. A small, cold seed of doubt started to grow inside of me. What if Jude was not imagining things? What if the gift inside was never meant to bring me joy at all? The awkward silence lingered thick in the ballroom, pressing down on every guest as they watched the tense standoff unfold. Elena's fake hurt expression hardened into quiet defiance, and she tightened her grip on the wrapped gift box like it was her most powerful weapon. All the warmth and celebration from my wedding day had completely faded, replaced by tension thick enough to touch. I stood beside Jude, my wedding dress feeling heavier by the second, torn between the lifelong urge to defend my sister and the gut instinct screaming that something was terribly wrong. My parents rushed forward to defuse the situation, desperate to save our wedding from public ruin. My mom placed a gentle hand on Elena's arm, voice shaky and pleading, as she insisted this was nothing more than a silly misunderstanding between siblings. My dad turned to Jude, apologizing profusely and asking him to stand down, explaining that Elena was just sensitive and hated feeling unappreciated. They'd spent our entire childhood forcing me to be the forgiving, reasonable sister, always telling me to overlook Elena's bitter outbursts and petty jealousy for the sake of family peace. In that moment, I realized they were ready to do it again, brush off her suspicious behavior to avoid confrontation. Elena fed into their sympathy instantly, blinking back manufactured tears and lifting her voice for the whole room to hear. "I traveled across the entire state to be here for my little sister's big day," she lamented, her tone wounded and accusatory. "I saved up for months to buy her a thoughtful gift, and now I'm being accused of harming her? This is humiliating and unfair. I've always loved her, and I would never do anything to ruin her happiness." Her words sounded genuine to everyone watching, painting Jude as an overbearing, paranoid ex-military man and me as an ungrateful sister. Jude remained unshaken by her performance, his sharp eyes never leaving Elena's face. Years of high-stakes missions had taught him to read micro-expressions and manufactured emotion better than anyone I knew. He did not raise his voice or create a scene, speaking firmly and calmly for everyone nearby to understand. This is not paranoia. This is pattern recognition. A genuine gift is given freely, without demands, without timing it for a public spectacle. You waited until the bride was center stage, told her to open it in front of every loved one, and refused to let anyone else it. That is not generosity. That's a low murmur rippled through the crowd, and I saw doubt flicker across several guests' faces. Some sided with Elena, viewing Jude's caution as extreme military trauma spilling into civilians. Others stayed, their eyes lingering on the box in her hands, clearly questioning why she refused to let anyone verify her so-called. The divide in the room only made Elena older, emboldened by the crowd's uncertainty and my parents' unwavering. She took a step forward, locking eyes with me, her tone sharp and manipulative. Clara, are you really going to let your new husband disrespect our family this? After everything I've done for you growing up? Are you choosing him over me on your wedding day? Her question cut deep, triggering every old childhood guilt I'd carried years. I'd always felt obligated to prioritize feelings, to shrink myself so she never felt overshadowed by my life's small. For a split second, I wanted to end the drama, to smile and take walks, to pretend everything was fine and return to our perfect wedding celebration. But when I glanced at Jude's steady, earnest gaze, I remembered why. He didn't overreact. He didn't drama. He spotted hidden danger before. The SEAL veterans standing silently in the background too. Not a single one relaxed their vigil posture. They trusted Jude's judgment completely. That moment, I chose. I did my chin, pushed past my guilt, and spoke clearly enough for here. If it's just a harmless gift, Elena, open it. Prove everyone wrong, now. My words stripped her of every last excuse. The room fell dead once more. All eyes on her. Her confident facade cracked instantly, her hands trembling slightly around the box. In the pivotal moment, the peaceful sibling harmony we'd pretended existed for years. And I knew whatever was hidden inside that box was about to unravel every lie I told. My demand hung heavy in the silent ballroom, leaving Elena with nowhere to hide. Every guest's full attention was locked on her, waiting for her to prove her innocence. Cornered and stripped of all excuses, she could no longer play the victim or blame Jude's military paranoia for the conflict. If she refused to open the box now, every person watching would know she had been lying all along. Her trembling fingers tightened around the wrapped gift, and I watched her confident, hurt facade crumble into pure, defensive panic. She stalled for time, stumbling over flustered explanations, claiming the moment was ruined, and the surprise was no longer special. She tried handing the box directly to me in a last desperate attempt to shift pressure away from herself, begging me to open it privately later so our wedding could go back to normal. But I stood my ground, refusing to take it. After seeing her fear and hesitation, I could no longer ignore the obvious truth. This gift was never meant to celebrate me. It was designed to destroy me. Jude stepped forward calmly, offering a fair resolution that left zero room for manipulation. We can open it right here, in front of our family and closest friends. If this is an innocent gift, we will apologize, drop the issue, and continue our celebration. No drama, no hard feelings. But if there is something harmful inside, everyone here will know exactly what you planned to do. His tone was reasonable, not aggressive, and every guest could tell his offer was genuine, trapped and defeated. Elena finally gave in. With shaky hands, she tore away the decorative wrapping paper, exposing a plain, unmarked cardboard box underneath. The entire room held its breath as she slowly lifted the lid. There were no pieces of jewelry, no sentimental keepsakes, no thoughtful wedding gifts waiting in. Instead, the box was filled entirely with doctored photos, heavily edited text message screenshots, and printed fabricated conversations designed to paint me as unfaithful and dishonest. My stomach dropped as I stared at the cruel content. Every image was cropped and altered out of context, every text thread twisted to create a fake narrative that I had cheated on Jude months before. Small, harmless, casual messages with old friends had been edited into flirty exchanges. Innocent group photos had been cropped to remove other people, making it look like I was privately intimate with someone else. Elena had spent weeks carefully crafting fake evidence just to ruin my reputation on my wedding day. Gasps rippled through the crowd, and quiet, shocked whispers exploded across the ballroom. My parents froze in place, their faces draining of all color, finally realizing this was no misunderstanding or overreaction. Their older daughter had planned a calculated, malicious attack to humiliate her own sister during the most important day. All the years they'd spent forcing me to tolerate Elena's jealousy flashed across theirs. and shame washed over them as they recognized their own. With her scheme exposed in front of everyone, Elena abandoned her fake victim act entirely. Her eyes turned cold and bitter, and she snapped at the crowd with unfiltered resentment she had hidden for years. "Why is everyone shocked?" she shouted, her voice cracking with years of repressed envy. "She always gets everything. Perfect grades, a perfect job, a perfect house, and now a perfect husband while I struggle alone. No one ever notices how hard I try. She doesn't deserve this life. And she definitely does." Her raw, unhinged confession silenced every guest. It was not anger from a sad day. It was years of poisoned jealousy, carefully hidden behind smiles and fakes. I stood frozen in a dress, heart stunned, realizing every kind gesture she'd ever given. Every compliment, every supportive word, every family visit had been nothing but a mask for hatred. In that dating moment, my childhood admiration for my older sister. I had spent my whole life forgetting her attitude, excusing bitterness, and clinging to the hope that we could once. My wedding day, she proved she would never be happy for me. She would only ever wait for opportunity to tear me down. As guests stared and murmured in disbelief, I understood painfully that our sisterhood was probably broken, and the public fallout from her sabotage was beginning. The chaos in the ballroom did not fade quickly. Even after Elena's vicious confession hung thick in the air, guests remained rooted in place, exchanging stunned glances and quiet whispers. The joyful wedding atmosphere was completely gone, replaced by awkward pity for me and quiet judgment toward my sister. I stood motionless beside Jude, still processing the brutal reality that my own flesh and blood had spent weeks plotting to destroy my marriage and ruin my reputation in front of every person we loved. I'd always known Elena was jealous. Growing up, she'd rolled her eyes at my small wins, made snide comments about my luck, and constantly compared our lives. But I'd never imagined her resentment ran deep enough to fuel premeditated sabotage. This was not a momentary outburst or a drunken mistake. This was calculated, cold, and intentional. She had edited screenshots, cropped photos, and planned the perfect public humiliation to take place at the peak of my wedding reception. Just as I thought the worst of the nightmare was over, my phone began vibrating frantically in my clutch. Confused, I pulled it out and felt my blood turn icy cold. Friends, distant relatives, and former classmates were texting me frantically, asking if the cheating rumors floating around social media were true. At first, I had no idea what they were talking about, until Jude's phone lit up with identical notifications. Elena had not only brought the fabricated evidence to my wedding, she had pre-uploaded every edited photo and fake screenshot to multiple social media accounts hours early. She'd scheduled the posts to go live mid-reception, timing her digital smear campaign to coincide with her in-person confrontation. While we'd been arguing in the ballroom, her lies had already begun spreading across feeds, group chats, and local community pages, gaining traction faster than I could comprehend. Panic surged through me as I quickly pulled up the posts. The captions were cruel and accusatory, painting me as a dishonest bride who had lied to her Navy SEAL fiancé and cheated leading up to our. Strangers were already commenting with harsh judgments, and several distant acquaintances had already shared the posts without a single fact-check. Elena stood nearby, watching me spiral into shock, a faint, triumphant smirk returning to her face. Jude's demeanor shifted instantly from calm alertness to focused crisis. Years of handling high-pressure threats kicked in immediately. He pulled out his phone and signaled to his former SEAL teammates, who immediately grouped together in the corner of the. They began systematically screenshotting every post, saving timestamps, archiving comments, and documenting every piece of defamatory content. They worked with military, preserving every trace of Elena's digital attack before anything could be deleted or. My parents finally snapped out of their state of shock, rushing over to confront. They demanded she take down the posts immediately and apologize, but she refused. She crossed her arms stiffly, insisting that people deserved to know the truth about who I really. In her twisted mind, her jealousy justified destroying my life. She believed my happiness was vigilant, and ruining my wedding and reputation was simply balancing out the unfairness of. I felt utter. In one single day, my perfect wedding had turned into a viral public scandal. The life I'd built, the loving marriage of, and my clean personal reputation were all crumbling because of my sister's unbridled bitterness. For years, I'd chosen kindness and forgiveness for her. But her retaliation proved that some people would never be satisfied, no matter how much you overlook their flaws or accommodate them. As more notifications flew my screen, and the rumors continued to spiral troll, I realized this was no longer just a fight. This was a full-scale attack on my character, my marriage, and my future. Elena had successfully turned my happiest day into my nightmare, and as the lies continued to spread online, I knew the damage was only growing worse. If we failed to stop the storm now, the false accusations would follow me forever, tarnishing my name long after the wedding day ended. By late evening, the viral rumors had spread far beyond our wedding guests. Fake posts about my supposed infidelity circulated through local community groups, old high school alumni pages, and mutual friend accounts. Strangers left cruel, unfiltered comments, and several distant relatives messaged me with disappointed, judgmental tones. I sat on a quiet hotel lounge sofa, still wearing my wrinkled wedding gown, feeling completely helpless as my reputation unraveled online. For the first time all night, I truly feared the life I'd built was irreparably broken. While I struggled with the emotional weight of my sister's betrayal, Jude and his teammates operated with cold, precise efficiency. Trained to contain and neutralize active threats, they treated Elena's social media smear campaign like a formal mission. They did not rely on guesswork or rushed emotion. Instead, they built a complete airtight evidence folder. They saved original unedited photos from my personal archives, cross-checked message timestamps, and captured metadata that proved every screenshot Elena shared had been manually altered and falsified over multiple weeks. Jude knelt down in front of me, his voice steady and grounding, cutting through my panic. "Rumors travel fast, but evidence lasts forever," he assured me gently. She relied on chaos to break, but chaos doesn't win against documented proof. Every lie she posted leaves a digital trail, and we have every single piece to dismantle her entire campaign. He explained that manipulated social media content counted as formal defamation in our and every share, every comment, and every intentional post strengthened our legal position. Just as we finalized our evidence, Elena sent me a brutal, condescending text message. She mocked my claimed my perfect life was finally over, and said I deserved every bit of public humiliation for always being the favored. She bragged that rumors stuck harder than the truth, and no one would believe my side of the story no matter how much proof I showed. That arrogant, unremorseful message erased the last flicker of sisterly sympathy in my... I was done grieving the bond we'd never truly... We launched our calculated counterattack immediately. Jude's legal associate drafted a formal cease and desist letter, demanding Elena remove all defamatory content immediately and cease all harassment. His teammates submitted verified evidence reports to every social platform, flagging each post as maliciously altered, fraudulent, and part of targeted personal harassment. Within hours, dozens of fake posts were removed, and several accounts spreading the rumors received official platform strikes and temporary suspension. Refusing to surrender, Elena doubled down on her. She created new anonymous accounts to repost lies, messaged family members with twisted versions of me, and even reached out to my workplace's public review page to subtle, false accusations. Every desperate move she made only added more evidence against her. Inability to accept defeat exposed her obsessive, vengeful mindset, turning a single reckless mistake into a sustained pattern of. Slowly but surely, public opinion began. Wedding guests started sharing eyewitness accounts of Elena's jealous breakdown at the reception. Close friends posted unedited original photos and message screenshots to my name. Family members who had initiated me reached out with sincere, horrified by how far Elena had gone. The chaotic storm she'd created began to calm, and her carefully constructed lies started falling apart. I no longer felt scared or... I resolved. Elena had started this war on my wedding day out of envy, but I would be the one to end it fairly and firmly. I would no longer tolerate her toxicity or sacrifice my peace to preserve a broken sibling relationship. By the end of the night, the power dynamic had fully reversed. Elena was no longer the one controlling the narrative. She was the one scrambling to save her own crumbling reputation, and her reckless campaign of jealousy had finally backfired in the most devastating. By the next morning, the online rumors had mostly been purged from social platforms, and public opinion had fully swung in my favor. Friends, family, and wedding guests continued posting supportive messages, sharing the unedited evidence that completely debunked Elena's fabricated lies. The digital storm was finally settling down, but I knew the conflict was far from over. Elena had lost her online battle, and desperate people always resorted to bolder, more reckless moves when their schemes fell apart. Sure enough, her next threat arrived before noon, sharp and unmissable. I received a frantic text from our neighborhood security team. Elena had driven 40 minutes to our new gated suburban home, parked her car at the front entrance, and refused to leave. She was demanding entry, insisting she needed to speak to me face-to-face to fix what happened. My hands trembled slightly as I read the message. I knew she had no intention of making amends. She was coming to create another scene, to harass me in the safety of my own home, and to find one last way to destroy the peaceful new life I had built with Jude. Jude noticed my tense expression and read the text over my shoulder. He did not hesitate for a second. He told me to lock all the doors, stay inside, and avoid any contact with her whatsoever. Years of protective instinct kicked in instantly, and he grabbed his keys to confront her alone. He understood exactly what Elena was trying to do. She wanted an audience, wanted to stir up neighborhood attention, and wanted to force me into another emotional breakdown to validate her bitterness. Jude refused to give her that satisfaction. When he stepped outside to the gate, Elena was already arguing with the security guard, her tone loud and aggressive. The moment she saw Jude, she abandoned the guard and stormed forward, her face twisted with resentment and frustration. Her online smear campaign had failed completely. Her reputation among our family was shattered, and every lie she'd crafted had been exposed. With no other options left, she was desperate to regain control by any means necessary. "You think you won?" She snapped at Jude, her voice sharp and unhinged. "You deleted the post and turned everyone against me, but you didn't fix it. She's always gotten everything she wants while I suffer alone. This isn't fair, and I'm not leaving until Clara hears me." She paced aggressively in front of them, scanning the quiet neighborhoods, clearly hoping a neighbor would witness the confrontation and give her the public attention she could. I could not stay hidden any longer. The need to end this endless cycle of toxicity pushed me, and I stepped onto the front walk to face her. I was no longer the little sister who begged for her, no longer the person who excused her jealousy or tolerated her cruelty to keep them. After everything she'd done to ruin my reputation, and my peace of mind, I was finally ready to set unbreakable boundaries. "There's nothing left to talk about, Elena," I said firmly, my voice steady and "You planned to humiliate me. You lied online. You ruined our family's celebration out of pure—" My words shattered her last pretense of innocence. She exploded into a raw, unfiltered rant, pouring out every year of repressed insecurity and hatred. She screamed about our childhood, about feeling overlooked by our parents, about watching her graduate, build a career, buy a home, and marry a loyal man while she struggled with loneliness and instability. She admitted she'd spent years waiting for my perfect life to crumble, and she'd jumped at the chance to destroy it herself. In her twisted mind, my happiness was an insult to her. Jude let her finish her entire breakdown before speaking, his tone calm, firm, and final. He pulled out his phone and displayed the full folder. Metadata proof of edited screenshots, witness statement from the wedding, archived defamatory posts, and her threatening text. "Every choice you made was premeditated harassment, defamation," told her. "We have filed official documentation, a permanent cease and desist, and a restraining arrest. If you contact us, enter our home, or post us again, you will face legal—" Elena's rage instantly crumbled into panic. She had assumed we would settle the conflict, that family ties would stop us from taking legal action. Cornered and defeated, she tried to backtrack, stammering out weak apologies and claiming she'd acted out of temporary pain. Too late. The final con was over. She had lost every ounce of control, and the sibling bond I'd spent decades trying to preserve was finally irreversible good. Defeated and breathless from her frantic outburst, Elena stumbled backward from our front gate, her fiery anger melting into quiet, desperate panic. The moment Jude laid out our full legal evidence, every last one of her delusions crumbled away. She had gambled everything on her bitter jealousy, convinced her lies would destroy my marriage and crush my happiness. Instead, she had only destroyed herself. Gone was her smug confidence, her fake victim act, and her endless sense of entitlement. Standing in the bright morning sunlight, she looked small, bitter, and completely defeated. Without another word, she turned and fled to her car, speeding away from our neighborhood in shame. She knew better than to push further. The mountain of proof we had compiled left her no room to argue, no room to manipulate, and no room for sympathy. I watched her car disappear down the street, and for the first time in my entire life, I felt no sadness, no guilt, and no urge to chase after her or fix what she had broken. I simply felt free. In the weeks that followed, the legal process unfolded steadily and firmly. Our attorney finalized the permanent cease and desist and restraining order, legally barring Elena from contacting, harassing, or approaching Jude and me. The court reviewed our evidence, metadata proving photo manipulation, wedding guest witness statement, archived defamatory posts, and her threatening text record, and ruled completely in our favor. Elena was ordered to cover all legal fees, remove every remaining trace of her false rumors online, and post a public apology admitting her premeditated defamation. The consequences of her reckless choices extended far beyond legal trouble. Once our family and mutual friends saw the full, unedited truth of her scheme, every bit of sympathy she had accumulated over the years vanished. Our parents finally stopped excusing her toxic behavior, acknowledging that their years of coddling her jealousy had allowed her resentment to spiral out of control. They cut off her constant demands for support and sympathy, forcing her to confront the damage she had created all on her own. Socially and emotionally, Elena lost everything. Her reputation in our hometown and among our mutual friend groups was permanently tarnished. People no longer viewed her as the misunderstood, overlooked older sister. They saw her for what she was, a bitter, manipulative woman willing to destroy her own sister's happiest moment to satisfy her. Isolated and disgraced, she was left with nothing but the consequences of her own cruel choice. While Elena spiraled into loneliness and regret, Jude and I slowly rebuilt the peaceful, joyful life we had almost lost. The last lingering online rumors faded completely, replaced by the full truth of her sabotage. We returned to our quiet suburban home, settling into the calm, loving routine of our new marriage. The trauma of my wedding day never fully disappeared, but it softened with time, turning from a nightmare into a powerful lesson about self-worth and balance. This ordeal completely changed the way I viewed family, love, and for decades, I had believed that blood ties required endless forgiveness. I had tolerated snide comments, quiet sabotage, and unbridled jealousy, just to keep our fragile sibling bond intact. I had prioritized her broken feelings over my own peace, terrified of losing the only sister. But Elena's calculated wedding day betrayal taught me a hard truth. Loving family does not mean letting them. True family does not celebrate your failures or plot your downfall. Jude stood faithfully by my side through every difficulty, his quiet strength helping me heal from years of suppressed sibling. He never pressured me to forgive, never rushed my healing, and always validated every emotion. His protection was never bearing. It was steady, loyal, and genuine proof safe. Loving life I had spent so long craving. Months later, our lives were calm, stable, and happier than I had ever imagined. I no longer grieve the broken sisterhood I once clung to. I no longer feel obligated to prove my worth to someone who refused to celebrate me. Instead, I cherish the real, unconditional love I have built. My wedding day started as a nightmare craftlessly, but it ended as the day I finally broke free from toxic family bonds, learned to value myself, and secured the peaceful, blessed life I had always deserved.